It's one of those early mornings where it's pretty quiet and there's just really the birds out and about, which is a time I absolutely love to go for a bit of a walk in the garden. It is early though, and that means I'm rocking the jammies, the gumboots and the oodies look, which means the camera is going to be firmly pointed out this way today, but I did want to take you for a bit of a walk in the garden, catch you up on how those winter seeds that we planted for spring, how they're all going, those ones that we started by the fire. And we've planted a lot out in the garden now, so it'll be pretty cool to show you how those are going. I also want to show you how things like the banana plants are actually coming back, which is really exciting, how the fruit trees are going after the big prune. I also want to have a little bit of a chat with you about some of the issues that we're starting to already see with our fruit trees. So we will head over there and I'll show you how that's going, how the planters are going on the deck, and also what we've still got going in the greenhouse. Yeah, so there's a little bit to cover, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and move quickly so this doesn't end up being one of those behemoth garden tours, and I can show you as much as I possibly can. G'day, it's Rachel here from Bush Edge Homesteading Australia. The rest of the family is actually asleep inside at the moment, which is why I've got my quiet voice on while I'm up here on the deck. Now, actually, before I get into it and start showing you stuff, I probably should mention for anyone that's new that's joined us that the garden that we have here is in southern Australia. So we're based in the Dandenong Ranges in Victoria. So different parts of Australia have very different gardening conditions. So this is what a garden's looking like at the moment in the south, or at least how our garden is looking in the south. So our vertical planters that we've got for our strawberries, they're all looking really good. I'm pretty excited about a couple of the new varieties that we've got. I got this one here, which was, well, they said it was a red flower, but as you can see here, it's looking pretty pink to me. And if we move around the other side, this one here, all the flowers have come off it, but that actually has a really gorgeous pastel pink flower. And we can see that the strawberries are already starting, which is kind of cool. This one here I've kind of reserved for just strawberries that have unusual kind of things about them. So those beautiful flowers with the different colour. And there's also a few I got from Swap Group that have white strawberries. Haven't seen them yet because they are all still kind of new and I haven't had fruit off of any of them for this season. And the other ones, yeah, they're pretty much refreshed for the year. I did put some worms castings. So yeah, that's how they're all looking at the moment. And as you can see, we're getting lots of flowers and lots of promise of fruit to come with those. So yeah, pretty excited about how those ones will go. The veggie pod, this is absolutely going off at the moment. On this side here, that's all kind of buck chow or pak chow. I can't quite remember which one I planted, but that's all growing really, really, really well. We've also got rocket going in there. A whole bunch of the coriander started self-seeding, so I kind of left that in there, just thinned it out a little bit. A bit of parsley, and look at the beautiful leaves on the spinach. That's all going incredibly. In the orchard, things have really, really taken off. We're definitely going to be getting fruit out of here. You can see, let's see if I can, I'm stretching at the moment, but let's see if I can zoom you in. That's probably smarter. You can see there, we've got lots of peaches about to start on the tree here. All on this side though, so the other sides where we're really heavily pruned, we have forgone some fruit this year, but that's perfectly fine. And then we've got over here the apple trees. Oh my goodness, the blossoms on these at the moment have been very, very plentiful and absolutely beautiful. So we've really been enjoying all those blossoms on these trees. They are absolutely stunning. But what's also really cool is that promise of fruit to come as well. You can see that we've had some really good pollination on a lot of these, so that's really, really exciting, which is not surprising with our girls. The bees, of course, always do a wonderful job for us. If you saw our blackberry pruning video, that's how it's all starting to fill out now. So As you saw, we went pretty hard, but yeah, it is all filling out. The bees absolutely love this one as well. And they have also been really busy pollinating all the flowers. And again, we're starting to see kind of things starting to fill out a little bit. I can see with that one there. So that's future fruit, which is a really exciting too. Continuing to move through. Yeah, of course, more apples, more blossoms, peaches. I think we did end up losing the rest of the fruit already off the peach and also the nectarine here, so I actually don't think we're going to get any this year, and that's because we've got a little problem that I'm going to show you in a second. But first of all, I want to show you this because I'm so excited. Hubby built a garden arch out of Reo. I'm going to come around here so you can really appreciate it. Oop. And while I'm here, more potatoes in the old feed bags. I love that method. We've got a separate video on that if you want to know more about doing those. We've done that for a couple of seasons now and I love it. But getting back to the topic at hand, check out my Reo garden arch. That is the first time I have ever been able to have one, and I'm so excited because I've wanted one of these for years and years, but with the layout of the gardens here, there's never really been a good spot for it. You know, I've thought about putting it in this area here, but I just didn't want to get the level of shading it would create, whereas this spot here is just perfect. And what we've done is planted a whole bunch of those pumpkins that we planted together inside. So these are some of the ones that we started by the fire, and these were actually in that very first batch that we did together. So they're all now planted out here, and I have visions of those growing over this beautiful arch. Pumpkins hanging down, that's something I have always wanted. And he did this really simply. He did have to work with the slope because we are really steep here. So if you have a bit of a look, what he's done is attached it kind of just with the U-nails onto the posts here. And it kind of sits right up off the ground here, but flush to the planter. And at this end, it kind of comes back down close to the ground. And he's attached that just to a star picket, and that was a really big star picket that he's driven way into the ground so that this thing doesn't take off like a sail in the future. The other thing we have in here is some sweet potatoes. So we've got two. These are the purple sweet potatoes that we got together when I did that drive to the Diggers Club and took you along when I bought seeds. So let's prop that back up. They have only recently just come out of the greenhouse though, because it was pretty cold here. And yeah, I didn't want to lose them. So they got potted up for a little while in the greenhouse to get through, and they've now been planted out. A few last of the snow peas going there. So we have been picking snow peas and eating snow peas, which has been really good. Got them here in another spot as well. I'll show you in a second, although we've started pulling those out already. The carrots are all growing well. In fact, they're getting not too far off picking. We have been picking lots of the silver beet from in here. And on this side, flower gardens started taking off again. So that's all kind of like peonies and dahlias that are in that spot there. This area I haven't planted out yet. And this was the rhubarb that we got together on that day that we went to Diggers as well. The compost bay is looking pretty ordinary at the moment because we have pulled almost all of the material out of there. This was absolutely chockers, but that's all kind of gone into the garden areas as we've prepped them this spring now. So yeah, I need to start scraping some of the sheep poop from up there, bring in some of the chook poop as well, and just start loading up this with some organics again. This is the raspberries. Now, I think I threw a picture of the pruning that we did in one of our shares, and as you can see, this is absolutely taking off again. All this growth at the bottom though, this smaller stuff, that's not where our berries are going to come from this year. It's going to be these canes here, which were ones that grew last year. And as you can see, again, there's promise of fruit to come. I got so excited about my arch up here that I forgot to show you the problem that we are having with our fruit trees. And that is probably most evident at the moment on our pears. And that's the fact that the possums have started already. Now the fruit is teeny tiny, but we actually don't have a lot of it left. In fact, I think this little area here on this branch is pretty much all that is left, because we've been spotting the little ringtails, which are gorgeous little possums, but they are horrendous in this area. And if we have a look over here, you can see that they've started stripping not only all the flowers and fruit, but they've even started stripping off all of the leaves as well. They actually sit there and watch them in the tree, actually eating the leaves. Like, yeah, it is pretty frustrating, and it's so early in the season, and this tree, it's pretty much all stripped. Which I will say is pretty heartbreaking as a gardener, and it's something that we see every year here. It's just huge. Whoops, sorry, went for a slide down the hill. We see huge pressure on our fruit trees from the wildlife, and if we want even the last couple of pears that are on here now, we're going to have to put a net on this. Otherwise, honestly, like, this has happened literally this week. If we don't net this weekend, we're not going to have any fruit. And what will happen is they're going to move from this tree onto the next tree and then onto the next tree. They also love the apples. Again, I've seen them sit in the apple trees and absolutely strip the apple trees. And, you know, because we only net select trees each year, we don't net them all. You know, we do see that if we don't net, we don't get fruit. It's just that bad with the pressure with the wildlife here. Now, I did want to talk about netting a little bit, because I do see, particularly in social media, sometimes people being really nasty to people when they ask about how to protect their fruit trees and the topic of netting comes up. And I just wanted to say, if you are someone that is in an area where you cop a lot of wildlife pressure like us, you know, I totally relate. Like, you grow your plants and, you know, you often put in a lot of effort and a lot of love and a lot of care into your plants so that you can get some fruit, or, you know, same goes with veggies, to feed your family, to feed yourself. And it is heartbreaking when you lose it all to wildlife. So we do relate, and we will be netting. The trick, of course, is just to net properly. You know, like, I would never want to be netting in a way that would harm any of the wildlife that we have here on this property. So yeah, it's about just kind of netting right, and yeah, it's definitely something that we will be doing. Otherwise, you know, this is kind of the ramification here. Every bit of fruit and, you know, losing the leaves, they just, yeah, it'll all be gone. All right, back onto nicer things, because I hate netting, to be totally honest. It's also one of the jobs I really do not enjoy in the garden, and I don't like the look of it in the garden either. It's just one of those necessary evils here, unfortunately. But let's get on to nice things, like the asparagus. So this here is our asparagus bed. We grow here and also in this area here and here. And by now you've probably seen our pickling asparagus video and understand why we have this feature here. I need to get out and do a little bit of picking today, because as you can see, we've had a lot more asparagus pop up again, and we have been eating and pickling a whole bunch, and that is absolutely delicious in the quick pickles. There's also the canned kind of shelf-stable pickled recipe that we've just kind of shared, and I'm definitely looking forward to putting a little bit more of that in the cupboard as well. Moving along, flower garden is taking off again. So again, lots of the peonies in here, and there's also some dahlias in there too. The gurgling behind me was the biogas. Wondering what that odd sound was. Oh, these guys are new since we got together last. Veggie bags. So this was a present from hubby back for my birthday. And, you know, we do get issues with a lot of the cabbage moths and things, like I'm sure many of you do. This has a really fine weave on it, and that means that we can grow leafy things without bugs in there. So I actually reckon these would be amazing for people in areas that get a lot of the fruit flies as well. We're actually quite lucky here in the ranges that they have had a few sightings over the past few years, but we don't get a lot of pressure like others do in other areas with the fruit flies. Okay, let's get you in here now. So this area still is to be largely planted out. We've put a lot of that compost actually in here, but a few things have popped up of their own accord, like the parsley. There's also a lot of the celery, but I have planted along here, and that there is broccoli. So it's a sprouting type of broccoli, and as long as it doesn't all get munched by the bugs, kind of looking forward to munching on that ourselves. Stackies, we still really have to do a bit more planting out of those, but again, a lot of things that have been kind of self-seeding, we've been kind of popping in there, like the parsley. Again, another area that's largely self-seeded. The absolutely beautiful flowers and celery, coriander. But these ones here we did plant, and that's a few more of the pumpkins. So they'll obviously need a lot of space when they do take off, but they have got hit by some pretty ordinary weather lately, which is why they're looking a little bit yellow. Again, the flowers in the middle with the peonies and the dahlias and the like are taking off. Peonies being the big ones. Let's see about zooming you in there. The little ones in there. That's our dahlias starting to take off. Now you've probably also by now seen the video on our garlic. Yeah, it still has the issue with the rust. Even though we have done the spraying, it's probably still not quite as bad on the varieties that we brought in, but yeah, it's definitely spread there as well. But it does still all seem to be growing and filling out, so we're letting it continue to do its thing, and hopefully we do still get a crop. Now, this here is a little project that my youngest has been doing for quite a few months now, where he's really got into bonsais. We actually captured a video when he started off, and it's really sweet, so that will be coming out soon as well, just kind of showing how he started that off. And yeah, that's how it's looking at the moment. It's gorgeous. Now, underneath this little kind of mini greenhouse tunnel is a whole bunch of what I can't remember. It's either chili or capsicum. Let's see if I can get a spot in here where I can see one easily without damaging it. Oh, here we go. Kind of see under here. That's what I've planted, and there's a few under there, but I didn't label. I think it's capsicum, but you know what? Later in the season, we'll find out together. They're obviously a little bit more frost tender, and it is still a bit of a sketchy time of the year, which is why I have that over the top. Got that many, many years ago. Actually can't remember exactly where I got it from. Now, another thing that's probably struggled a little bit with the late cold that we had is the tomatoes that I did plant out early. So these here are all the tomatoes. There's a couple of Burnley Bounties in the front, Amish pastes, and also some of the Legend tomatoes along here. And then right along the back, all those little seedlings are sunflowers. So yeah, kind of excited to have a bit of a line of sunflowers along the back there. And I'm actually thinking of putting some beans in and perhaps growing some beans up those. I have lots of bean seeds because we collected a lot last year. Now, along here, I've actually been pulling out a lot of the snow peas, but the end plant had still been producing a few, so I kind of left these ones at the end for now, because I don't want to miss out on the last of the snow peas. But yeah, it really is well and truly time for these guys. You can kind of see that, you know, coming into the time of the year, they're not the happiest. And I also need this area here to plant out the rest of the tomatoes, or at least some of the rest of the tomatoes, because as you're going to see in a minute, I have a lot in the greenhouse. As for the rest of the bed here, there's a few more of the things that we started together by the fire that I've planted out. Zucchinis are one. Now, they're kind of sort of going all right at the moment because, yeah, we've got a bit of a problem, and you can probably see that, you know, they're not as green and as healthy as one would normally like. And if I can bring you right in here with the camera and perhaps even zoom in as well, you'll see why. There's like a little really tiny snail, which is why I have put a few snail pellets out, as well as the eggshells that we started with. But yeah, I don't know. Oh, we'll have to see how they go, to be honest. There was a fair bit of level of damage, and that's happened on a few of these, so I'm not sure, honestly, how they're going to go. So we'll see. Give them a chance, and they'll either grow or they won't. Now, along here, oh, I got to fix that net up. I've got the net over a lot of our kind of more leafy types of salad veg and vegetables. Things like the broccoli and lettuces and stuff like that is all in here. There's some cabbage as well, just to kind of stop cabbage moths, but we had some horrendous winds last night, so I definitely need to fix that tonight. But yeah, all of those have kind of popped up now, well, most of them, and yeah, they're growing quite well, as kind of expected at this time of the year. Yeah, some of the, I think those ones at the back were the broccoli as well. Again, you know, there's a theme here. I don't label very well, so it's often a bit of a surprise when it actually gets to that time of the year where I start planting these guys. But yeah, as you can see, lots have popped up, lots of promise of veggies and salady stuff this summer. Which then takes us to the greenhouse. And in the greenhouse still is a bit of a jungle because there's things like the lemongrass that we still haven't put outside, although to be honest, it's probably ready now. This weekend that could go out. Hubby still has not picked his pineapple. It got a little bit bigger, but I think it is going to remain a pretty small one. And I think that is actually at the point where he does need to pick that soon, because I'm seeing, you know, some of these leaves are starting to yellow. The sweet potatoes are just kind of starting to pop back up again, so hopefully once again they will all just kind of grow in there again and we get another crop. In here we've got some little chili plants. These are some of the ones that we started by the fire, not in the first lot that we did together, but I actually did a few successions, so I think that was actually from the second lot, those ones. And that's one of the tomatoes that we did together in that very, very first lot. And as you can see, that has some size about it now. In fact, that was flowering, and check that out. That's our first little teeny tiny tomato for the season coming through. That one is very happy because it is in the greenhouse. A lot of the kind of chilies and capsicums, once again, they've got through winter. They're never particularly happy because it is very cold up here in the Dandenong Ranges for them. But yeah, once again, we've got through another year, which is good. Got a few more things that I've planted out, and I've got them in here just for a bit of protection from kind of the crawling bugs, you know, slugs and snails, and mainly like slaters was one of the things that I did find was really hammering our seedlings. And the little black ones as well, which of course is the name's gonna elude me, was in a few, but I actually think it was the slaters that were biting off the bottom of a lot of the really tender seedlings that I had. All right, what else have we got? Some cucumbers, chilies. This is a second lot of, I think they were Amish paste tomatoes that I started by the fire. So you can see they're a little bit smaller than these ones here, which were from a previous batch, and that was the green and blacks. I got a couple of basil still going there. I'm trying to get a few more going in this one here. You can see one's popped up. Now some of the seeds that I've tried to plant, you know, when we went through it together, I did show you some of them were really old. They just didn't grow. So these ones here, I think were the zinnias and the dills that just, yeah, no good. So we do need to kind of give up on those completely and turf them. sweet potato, kind of in a couple of different methods. So some of these are the ones that when we picked those sweet potatoes together, I put them in the pots, and you can see they're starting to take off with a couple of them now. But I did snip a few cuttings as well, and that's how they're going. There is only a couple left, and there was about a dozen. And that's because my eldest's cat decided that they were delicious, and he was kind of chewing the tops off. So there's the only two that have made it through, but yeah, they'll get planted out as well. A few onions. Only the reds took off. The whites did not. So yeah, I think that seed again was no good. And this is a whole bunch more cucumber. So yeah, that's pretty much what we've got going in the greenhouse at the moment. And as for this bed, there's not a lot planted yet, but I have planted some of those beans that we started together kind of in that early batch. And they're starting to get a little bit of size about them. Also a bit of bug damage as well. All right, let's head to the front because I do want to show you very quickly what's going on out there too. Check out the snowballs. Now the garden out the front is absolutely filling out beautifully at the moment. We didn't prune quite as hard out here as we did on the other side, but we'll probably do it the other way around this upcoming winter. But what I wanted to show you over here is these guys. Because I know I shared with you that it looked pretty dire for a few of our bananas this year. It was so cold and we had so many nights under zero. They really didn't like it at all. So they did pretty much end up dying almost completely black. But yeah, we now have leaves on most of them. So they're all looking all right. Obviously need to do a bit of pruning to get rid of a lot of the material that did kind of die off. But we did lose a couple down the end, so I'll show you those as well. That was just the reality. So that one there, yeah, that's going to be a non-starter this season. That one is done, and I think this one over here is as well. Well, that's pretty much how things are going in our garden at the moment. At the first week of October, kind of mid-spring now. And hopefully this was interesting to you if you are in a similar area and kind of curious about how someone else's garden in the area is going, because I know I love looking at other gardens and seeing what I can potentially grow, kind of where my things are at compared to how others are having success on certain things. And if you're in another part of the world, hopefully you just enjoyed coming for a bit of a garden walk with me today. So as always, guys, thanks a bunch for joining, and catch you later. And now it's definitely time for a coffee.